You're listening to Data Center Therapy. Please take a number, and an engineer will be right with you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Data Center Therapy. I am your host, Matt Yeti, and I'm joined today by another one of our senior solutions architects, Mack Nethkin. Now, we've talked with Mack on a previous episode, but with Cisco Live just occurring over the last couple of weeks, Mack was in attendance, and he's got an awful lot of information to go over. Mack, it's nice to see you. How are you?
I'm good.
Good to chat with you. So let's unpack this. We've got, a ton of stuff. We could go for hours today, but we're going to try to keep this to 30 minutes or so. So what were the main points and takeaways that you had from Cisco Live?
Well, this year they held it in San Diego. It's not my favorite place to go, but it was nice. A lot of walking.
Is 75 and sunny that bad?
It's the walking. Jeremy actually had his Apple Watch on, was keeping track of miles, and we were doing between 8 to 9 miles a day of just walking. So my feet really tired.
Live indeed.
Yeah.
Nice.
But the venue is really nice, and there's a lot of outdoor stuff for eating lunch and also, and it was in the mid-70s, which was actually really comfortable.
Is it typically in San Diego?
No. Usually they rotate Orlando, San Diego, and Las Vegas.
Okay.
Next year is supposed to be in Las Vegas.
Okay.
But as is normal with Cisco Live, they usually do some major announcements. Oftentimes they will wait for Cisco Live to do the announcement. And that's what I wanted to cover today with some of the major announcements that will impact most folks. So Cisco certifications, if you have not already heard, they are revamping their certification program entirely. And this is huge. So the date to remember is February 23rd of next year. That is the last day to take any of the existing certification exams.
You'd say Cisco certs are probably, they're the grandfather of all certifications in the IT world. It seems like CCNA is that core test that if you're going to have an IT cert, it probably is a CCNA.
Right. It's the building blocks of what all infrastructure is based on. Your IP addressing, your subnet masking, your VLANs, and so forth, which, virtually everybody in IT is familiar with those, spanning tree, that kind of stuff, right?
ATM and ISDN for all the new stuff?
No, they've dropped that a long time ago. Oh my God, date myself there on that frame relay X25 stuff, yeah. So, but anyway, February 23rd, last day to take any of these existing exams. Usually Cisco will put out new exams and have like a new exam and the old exam as a transition period. This is a draw a line in the sand. There is no transition. You can't take a new exam until February 24th. February 23rd is the last day to take an existing exam. So what will happen, and then some other major things they're doing is like the CCNAs. Myself, I have a CCNA route switch. I have a CCNA design. I have a CCNA wireless. I have a CCNA security. All that goes away, and it'll be just called CCNA. They're consolidating all of the different CCNAs into one test. They're also not going to break it into two. Folks today for the CCNA route switch could do ICND1 and ICND2. That goes away. It'll be just one test that's supposed to ask questions of all of the various, wireless security.
And that is crazy to me. Because they broke it up in the first place because theoretically it was too broad.
A lot of information, right.
So now they're going to go back to one and stuff, wireless, security, route switch.
Right. So I would agree with you that it's crazy, but I haven't seen the exam to know how they do that, right? But just be advised, CCNA on February 24th will be very different than before then.
So is there any point, let's say I don't have a CCNA. I can't pat my own back quite as well as Matt can, but I do have a CCNA. Is there any point in February 22nd, I walk in, I want to take the CCNA. Am I crazy?
I wouldn't wait till February 22nd.
Well, but should I take it right up to the wire, or should I just wait 3 days, or?
So let's talk about transition, and I'll answer that question. So the CCNPs are also all being revamped, right? This is across the board in all their tests, what they're doing. So the CCNPs today, that's your professional level tests, are generally 3 to 4 tests. Right, like CCNA route switch, you would have to have the troubleshoot exam, the routing exam, and the switching exam. So post February 24th, to get that same CCNP certification, you need a core exam and a specialty exam, right? So the core exam, if today you went and passed the CCNP route test and the switch test, those two together, on the 24th of February, Cisco will migrate those two exams to the one core exam that you would need. Then you would be one test away from having your CCNP and the new technology.
Wow. So as long as those are valid within the last 3 years,
yes,
they will be migrated.
Right. And what, like, for example, in my case with all the CCNAs I have, what's going to happen to those, right? Whatever the expiration dates are, they stay. So it's not like I lose those certs on the, on February 24th. What'll happen is I would continue to keep those certifications through the expiration date. There will just be no way to renew them because they're no longer offered. They're no longer valid.
So they don't get rolled into the new CCNA version. But it's still a CCNA.
Right. So my 4 CCNAs get turned into one. I'll get migrated to the one CCNA.
You will get migrated.
I will get migrated, and I'll have one out of that.
So will I get migrated not having all of those specialty CCNAs?
Yes.
Oh.
Everybody who's got a CCNA that's valid on the 24th will get migrated.
So we will have the same CCNA certification February 24th.
Yes.
Yet you've taken 4 more tests than I have in that competency.
Correct.
Sounds fair. I'm all in favor of that.
And the expiration date doesn't change. They don't start that over.
Right. Well, of course not. I wouldn't expect that to be. Okay. Doesn't sound terrible so far. Is IE still a thing?
It is. They've made some changes to it also. I don't remember the specifics of it. I would encourage everybody who's interested in Cisco certs or may have one, go to cisco.com/go/next level. And that has all of the documentation. They have a whole migration planner. Like, if you've taken these tests, this is what it's going to turn into. So right now, there's probably a mad rush on testing material, and I would imagine that a lot of the online training materials are getting discounted because they want you to sell it. They want to sell it so you can take these exams. So if you want to prepare for what your next cert's going to be post February 24th, what can you do now, between now and then, to set yourself up with the existing curriculum?
Well, that's good. So there's no lame duck taking a test February 22nd, essentially.
Correct.
That's good, at least.
Yeah. Other things that are kind of cool that they're doing is they're eliminating all the prereqs in the new testing. So, like, if you wanted a CCNP data center, you'd have to take the CCNA data center, right, which would have a minimum prereq of an ICND1 test. That all goes away. It's like, you want this cert, just go take the test, and then you get it without any prereqs holding you back for that kind of stuff.
And just curiosity, because I'll probably never live in this world, but again, the IE, are there prereqs to that, or you could just go right at it?
The IE's actually never had any prereqs.
Really?
Yeah, it's the only one that's never had prerequisites.
I've known a few CCIEs in my time, and I know it's not always the case, but the one that the first guy I ever met who was an IE used to work for Cisco. It's pretty not easy, financially easy, to be able to take the test over and over, because what's the pass rate on first go? Single digits? I mean, people don't pass it the first time around. But when that $3,000 lab fee gets picked up by your company, makes it a little easier to swallow, I think.
Yeah, unless you have to take the lab 5, 6, 7 times.
Comes out of your salary?
I don't know how that. I've heard of many Cisco IEs that have taken it more than 3 or 4.
Yeah.
To the lab.
Well, the numbers they're still in the 5 digits, right? I don't think there are 100,000 CCIEs out there, are there?
Yeah.
And it could be low 5 digits from what I remember.
Yeah.
I think 15 or so. Yeah. So what else went on down there? I mean, a ton of stuff announced.
Yeah. So other thing, continuous learning is being implemented as far as this. So in order to renew your certs, you're going to have to do some continuous learning and watching some videos and that kind of stuff. That's something new that they're implementing. They started that with a CCIE program a couple years ago, where instead of taking your recert exams, you could do continuous learning credits instead, and so forth. And they're expanding that to the NP and CCNA level stuff. So my recommendation is, if you have any tests that you are currently studying for, don't fret. Finish those tests. Just have them all done before the 24th, and go to that cisco.com go/next level and look at the test you're studying for, how they will be migrated into the new exam structure, and so forth. But
so I should be looking for an email in my inbox with what my next steps are going to have to be and what Ivoxy wants me to do?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Let me set my filter rules up right now. I didn't get that one.
Yeah. And the CCNP is being reduced to 2 exams. I actually think is really good. But then again, I think the depth of those exams is going to be much wider, which may make it more challenging, or it may make it a neutral. I don't know yet. But it'll certainly cut the cost of the tests down, right? I mean, it's cheaper to take 2 tests than to have to take 3 or 4.
Well, did they announce pricing, or are you assuming?
I asked a question on pricing, and they haven't said it's going to raise or whatnot.
It wouldn't surprise me.
The general message is they don't think there's going to be a pricing increase on them. If there is, they said it'd be minor.
I wouldn't be surprised if they took the consolidation and scaled on that. So instead of taking 4 $250 tests, I wouldn't be surprised 2 $500 tests would replace it.
I did not get that message from Cisco.
Okay.
I don't think they're doing it. Part of the thing is some of these tests is almost like money makers, and they're trying.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're trying to get away from that and make it more of that. If you pass the test and you're certified, it should be the material.
Right.
Yeah. So, next topic. Catalyst 9000 product line. I want to talk about this. So the Catalyst 9300s were released a couple years ago at Cisco Live. Was a major announcement. This year's major announcement was the Catalyst 9600, which replaces the iconic 6500 switch that most of us network engineers have
Anybody who's been in the data center, you've seen one.
Right, exactly. Right, they've been around for 2 decades easily.
Matt, can I just stop you right? I just want to kind of go with a little side note, very briefly. Anybody who might not be familiar with the deep networking of the product lines or the purposes of the stuff, we're all familiar with Catalyst. You've heard of 2960s, you've heard of 3850s, 3750s. You're talking about the Catalyst 9000 product line right now, but I know there's a Nexus 9000, there's a Nexus 5000, a 7K, a 3K, there's that 2K. Why am I looking at a Catalyst 9000 versus a Nexus 9000?
The simplest answer is if it says Nexus, it's data center, and if it says Catalyst, then it's client access, right? So that's the easiest delineation. And that being said, we oftentimes will put Nexus in campus, and sometimes we'll put campus Catalyst into the data center. Right, and it comes down to the price of the switch and what you're going to use it for, and that kind of stuff. But in general, the Catalyst product line was built from a software features perspective for the campus.
Okay.
For servicing users, endpoints, that kind of stuff.
Great, thank you.
So on the Catalyst product line, most customers today understand the Catalyst 9300 replaced the 3850s, which replaced the 3650s and the 3750s. The 9400s replaced the 4500 chassis switches, and then the 9500s replaced the 4500X, 16 and 32 port 1U rack mount switches. The 9200s were recently released, which replaces the 2960. So the simplest way to think about this is look at the second digit: 9200, 9300, 9400. The 9200, that 2, 2960. 9300, that 3 is a 3850, 3750.
Needed the decoder ring.
It is, and this was done intentionally. The one caveat Cisco ran into was the 9500.
Right.
There was 2 lines in the 4500. You had the 4500, 7-slot chassis, for example, which is a modular chassis, and then we had the 4500X, which was your 1U rack mount 10 gig switch.
Which is funny because I would think the naming would even be reversed on that. You'd think the X would be the expandable.
Right.
That's how I read it, but it's actually the non-expandable 1U unit.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so they had to do 9500 for the 4500X to differentiate it from the chassis. But getting a brand new 6500 replacement, so the 9600 is actually a 6-slot chassis, which is really 4 slots plus 2 soups. And you can't plug line cards into the soup slot engine, so it's really a 4-slot chassis.
It's only a 4-slot chassis? We don't have like a 6513 or 6519 anymore?
Right. It's a 9600 6-slot, which gives you 4 line cards and 2 soups. They talked a lot about like that sounds small when we think of the 6513s and so forth of years ago. But remember, this is like 40 gig and 100 gig kind of aggregation.
Right, you're real dense.
Right, it's real dense. So the throughput numbers and so forth are pretty astounding with what the box can do. And it's positioned, like I said, to replace the Catalyst 6500 with the same feature set and so forth there. As with everything on the Catalyst product line, you get to choose Advantage versus Essentials for the licensing SKU. Both of those line up with DNA Center, which is the new management platform that Cisco has. Now, DNA Center has basically got hooks into most things that Cisco has today.
Is that something on-site or is that cloud-based?
It's actually an appliance, and it's the new management plane going forward for Cisco. So you need DNA Center. We need a license to be able to connect something to DNA Center. Advantage is going to give you more features than Essential is going to be. The one gotcha I'll tell everybody is StackWise Virtual, which is the newer and improved version of VSS, requires Advantage. Doesn't work with Essentials. A lot of people like to think Advantage is your layer 3 stuff and Essentials is your layer 2. StackWise Virtual / VSS is really a layer 2 feature.
Those are like IP services, that kind of license we used to see?
Right.
Okay.
Right. So you got to look at the fine print as to which set of features you need. Now when you purchase just the switch, it'll come with, it has to have Advantage or Essentials on it. If you're not running DNA Center, then you really don't need the license. You still have to have a minimum of 3 years of that license, and then at the end of that, the features just turn perpetual and everything continues to work as normal.
So DNA Center, is this like a on-site KMS server for activating Windows? Is that kind of the equivalent? It's not required, right? The DNA appliance?
It is not required, but if you're looking for management and so forth, single pane of glass, helping
when you say management, you mean switch configuration?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. DNA Center, effectively you set policy of how you want things to be configured, and then it worries about the configuration underneath the hood with how to configure the device.
But it can also, does it have anything to do with licensing, or you need advanced licensing to leverage DNA Center upstream?
Essentials actually will work as well. You
Okay.
just get less features through DNA Center
Okay.
using Essentials versus Advantage. And then in addition to that, on security, this is actually another big thing that's been evolving and is getting more traction, is using the network as a sensor, which kind of lines up with the entire Catalyst 9000 product line. So if we think about it, the network is the transport, and it's always been plug in, it's the highway, connects the servers to users, and so forth. But with malware being as prevalent as it is today, the network is also a sensor. It knows what's traversing it. If we would just ask it, then it would be able to say, hey, we're seeing malware coming from this port. Why can't we tell something to go quarantine that port and take proactive action, right? Security is made up of layers throughout the infrastructure, and what was really prevalent in Cisco Live is our borders are changing entirely. We went through, traditional networking where you went to the office and you were protected behind a firewall and you were in the office. Then when you left, you went home and that was fine. But then we had BYOD, bring your own device. Personal devices now being used at work. Then you had laptops you can give to everybody. They go to Starbucks, and they're on public Wi-Fi. They're going home using them for personal use, come in. So now they pick up malware and so forth outside of the office and bring it in. That gets around the firewall. So our boundaries are totally changing entirely. Being able to leverage the network to look at that stuff, because you can't trust endpoints anymore, even if they're corporate owned, right, because of the users using them. If it wasn't for the users, a network would be perfect. Yeah, there was another news article. Riviera Beach City Council made the news last week. They voted unanimously to pay $600,000 to the hackers that encrypted all of their data. Right, the city had numerous problems, including losing its email system and 911 dispatchers not being able to enter calls into the computer.
Wow.
Right. Let's see. The stuff is real and it's out there, and doing everything you can to put mechanisms in place to catch it is paramount. So Cisco's got a product called StealthWatch, which was actually an acquisition several years ago from Landcope. There's a feature that they came out with. It's the industry's first network with the ability to find threats in encrypted traffic. Right? It's called ETA, Encrypted Traffic Analytics. So if you think about this, right? So if you were to do a sniffer capture of traffic traversing your network, most of it's encrypted. You go to google.com, it's HTTPS, right, today. So just even them just searching stuff, you can't in clear text.
You'll see the DNS query in the clear, and that's it.
Correct. Everything else will be here. So how do you find the malware and stuff, right? Well, Cisco's figured out a way, leveraging StealthWatch and the hardware in the Catalyst 9000 series, to be able to detect malware within an encrypted stream without having to decrypt it.
I wonder if they have their threat database or collections, and they've gone ahead and encrypted it using various algorithms to get basically thumbprints and what they look like in various types of encryption, and then scan against that, maybe?
I don't know what their secret sauce
Right,
is
they're not going to tell you
because they patented it.
Sure.
But
that's impressive.
But it's not 100% either.
Well,
I want to say the numbers they were saying were like 90 to 95%.
But it's a layer, right?
It's another layer.
Yeah.
It's another thing looking.
And
right?
obviously, probably not a performance impacting. It would they built in capacity to deal with it on the fly and still keep line rate if it's advertised.
Yeah, the requirements for ETA, you have to have StealthWatch Enterprise, which StealthWatch is it's an application that runs. Think of it as like a NetFlow collector on steroids. And then you also have to have a Catalyst 9000, an ASR 1000, an ISR 1000 or 4000 series router, or the new Catalyst 9800 Wi-Fi controller.
So any Catalyst 9000 switch, so any new campus layer switch is going to be capable of this if you have StealthWatch.
Correct.
That's nice. You don't need anything specialized.
Yeah, so to me, this is a huge shift on networking, and instead of thinking the network as transport, you think of the network as extra visibility into your infrastructure to make sure that the traffic being moved is legitimate traffic and being able to catch.
You're almost layer 7 firewall without a firewall.
Correct. Certainly heading that direction.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No word of the ASA as part of this.
ASAs are still part of it. We still need firewalls.
Well, yes, I'm not suggesting no north-south, but is that part of the StealthWatch, or we're just strictly talking layer 2 transport at this point?
StealthWatch is just basically NetFlow collecting with a bunch more telemetry data and stuff feeding into it. But here and again, it requires the specific hardware on the Catalyst 9000 product line to do that.
I like network as a sensor. When I just read those 4 words, I laugh because there's software as a service, platform as a service. If anybody out there is listening and just feels like shooting an email, come up with a 4-word something as something. I just want to see how creative we can get. I don't know what I'm expecting. I don't even have an idea for myself yet, but I feel like people are going to be creative. Give me something as a something, like burger as a breakfast as a dinner. Right? Something like that. One of the favorite things. See if we can come up with more of those.
It's doing the marketing.
Right. So steak as a breakfast, things like that. Yeah, of course it goes to food. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the firewalls you mentioned was actually interesting because there was a presentation that I sat through that was called "The Future of the Firewall," and that was very interesting. It focused on the traditional way we've done networking, which as I described, is you go to the office and you're protected by a firewall, and when you're in the office, you're secure. You leave the office, you're not. Now that everybody takes their work home with them and has it on their personal devices, their work devices, they may never come to the office. Could be a teleworker, kind of thing. We add the cloud to the mix, right? So some customers, are full cloud, it's hybrid cloud, on-prem cloud, right? Or software as a service, kind of stuff. You have to connect to all of these things and provide security around all of them. So the borders are a lot more fuzzier, and it now encompasses a lot more realm to look around. So
the end user device security solution, it's ICE, right? Is that the agent that basically can verify your antivirus is up to date and running and
posture assessment? ICE is one way to validate posture assessment.
Okay.
That's for like if somebody's connecting on VPN or to your network and you want to say you don't get on my network unless you meet this criteria.
Sure. BYOD, I mean, it presented an incredible opportunity for network and security companies to tackle that, but what a disaster overall in terms of security posture, right? I mean, and it really was a representation of this is what I use at home. It used to be corporate could dictate this is your workstation, this is how you work, and then it was all basically the iPhone era. I think started. Why am I stuck with this clunky old BlackBerry or whatever, this HP iPack, when I have this cool iPhone? I want to use this iPhone for work.
Right.
And it was all over after that.
Yes and no. I don't necessarily agree with that because on the BYOD, when that first came out, I mean, I was mortified. I was like, leave your personal stuff at home,
right,
and leave your corporate. I mean, from a policy, it makes sense, but obviously the users have won that war in corporate America, hands down. BYD is now normal, and so forth. Really, the bigger issue from the security front is end user training, right? When I talk about that Riviera Beach, how did the malware get in? There was a user that opened up an email and a PDF and clicked it. And that is is probably the number one method how malware gets in, is
Social engineering.
Social engineering. You send somebody sends an email to somebody in accounting to pay a bill, and it's in a PDF, and you open that PDF and you click the link, and the malware gets in.
If your user is determined to do something, they will and can accomplish it.
Right.
Put your password in a million times. Yeah.
So they've gotten really crappy. So anyway, with the boundaries now all encompassing for your cloud edge, your software as a service, internet, private cloud, remote users, teleworkers, your BYOD devices, you can't be satisfied with just endpoint protection, right? You've got to look at the entire stack throughout the infrastructure. The other thing, which I always like to say, and I don't see this advertised very often, is all of our employees that work for us at our company, we like to trust them. As people, we trust them. As IT, we don't trust them. We don't trust their laptops. You don't know where their laptop has been. The users aren't malicious, but the malware is very crafty at finding ways to get users to click stuff or infecting, getting on that and jumping around.
And to that point, there is no 100% technical solution. If you still have to allow people to get work done, so you can't lock everything down to the extreme, because a user that can't get on the network can't do any work.
Correct.
So we've seen this, that the education of your user base is just as important as your technical solution, if not more. We've seen this internally. We've had people get sent these emails now, these emails that come from Mack Nethkin. If you look at the from address, it's not Mack at LVtMCEaaS, it's something else. And the thing is, that's just a spoofed envelope sender. So it's just a display. So there's nothing that a spam filter can really do there's nothing that can rule against, because if the email doesn't look spammy, doesn't have spammy characteristics, it's going to let it through. It shows up in my inbox and it says it's from Mack Nethkin. Hey Matt, can you go get me some Home Depot gift cards? Can you go buy me some iTunes gift cards? This is urgent, and it's coming from Mack, and they've got your name, and they might even have your phone number and put it in the signature or something like that. I've seen that happen to a lot of clients and colleagues and associates that I've dealt with, and they're trying to talk to me and say, how do we filter this out with our spam filter? You can't. This is user education at this point. If they're not putting a link in there that's part of a database that has malware URLs in there, which they don't have any links, and it's not saying anything in that email that's really, you could write a custom rule that they can then get right around by changing the wording of the sentence. Your users have to be educated.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing when the futures of the firewall, which basically is the network as a sensor looking at all different areas of it, provide protection.
So how long were you down there for?
It was 4 days.
Non-stop, probably.
It was non-stop. Yeah, they're getting up at 5 in the morning and going to bed at 1 o'clock every morning.
When they say network guys have no fun.
Yeah, I'm getting a little old for that. But it's always a blast. I love going to Cisco Live. There's so much information there. There's usually about 25,000-ish or so people that show up. Yeah. It varies on the venue.
Now you focus on the networking. Obviously, you're a network professional, but I'm sure there was a lot going on with UCS and UCS HyperFlex and things like that.
Absolutely.
Not for this episode, but would you be interested in coming back on and talking a little bit about that side of things in a future episode? That'd be cool, because there a lot's going on with HyperFlex and hyperconverge, pros and cons to that. I'd love to get into that debate.
There was one class I sat through just to throw myself in an uncomfortable situation. So I went and sat through a Cisco container platform presentation. So Cisco has got a software product that will help deploy Kubernetes containers to help automate on that. Right, and that's something that most folks probably wouldn't realize. Cisco is not all about routing and switching and wireless, right? The server side, they've got collaboration, and also a large amount getting into the software side of the house too.
Mr. Cozzolino and I have an ongoing badminton match where we're slapping it back and forth from episode to episode about containers, and I would say he's more bullish. I wouldn't call myself bearish, but I'm skeptical, but with a wide open ear. Like, just tell me more. I want to learn more. And that's just another piece of the puzzle that I'm looking forward to diving into for sure.
Yeah.
I talked with our boss, Mr. Watson, just last night about containers too. So over a beer. Yeah. So you have never seen that before, actually.
I do.
All right.
My last day at Cisco Live, I'm going through the World of Solutions, which is it's like a trade show. They've got all different kinds of vendors there. Rubrik, Cohesity, NetApp, and a plethora of others and stuff. So folks that you may not think would be at a Cisco conference, but everybody plays nice with Cisco to some degree on the infrastructure. So anyway, there's an SSD hard drive option on a Catalyst 9300 switch. It's a 120 gig SSD hard drive.
And that would be an old 3850, the new 3850.
Correct. Right.
With a hard drive.
So being a network guy, I've dealt with all kinds of switches over the years, and I'm like, why would you put a hard drive?
It's not just for flash images, is it?
Huh?
Is it for images?
No, that's the flash drive. There's plenty of that. This is different. This is an actual, that's 120 gig drive. So I went down, I was talking to him about it, and I was like, why would I do this, right? And the reason behind it is they showed me a list of about 24 different applications that would use it. The one that related to me the best, it's easiest to explain, is ThousandEyes. So ThousandEyes is a cloud offering that does external monitoring of your infrastructure. So you'd sign up with them, and they have different probes and stuff, and they'll look at your performance externally. But what if you wanted to also monitor internal performance that they can't get to from the cloud? So they would give you either a physical agent to put in that you then do a span port or something to send them the data, or they have a virtual edition that you could then deploy somewhere. You could also now just deploy it as a container on the hard drive in the switch. That's the feature you get. So they have other products for like sniffer captures, right? That there's a container that'll do a Wireshark-like application to be able to do captures on the switch that way and actually run the application right on a container inside the switch. So it's got an enormous amount of third-party application integration, probably I would say primarily around like the DevOps operational side of the house.
So these switches have a generic x86 kit in there now running the stuff on the side?
Well, the Catalyst 9K actually runs, it's iOS XE, which is based on Linux. There's actually a Linux shell underneath that you can get
So
to.
These aren't just strict ASICs then running these switches anymore?
No, they're U80P 2.0, 3.0, I forget the version number of them, that are programmable ASICs. That's one of the huge, innovations that they've made on the switching in the last several years, is having a programmable ASIC so that as new features come out, they can give you a software upgrade that'll reprogram the ASICs and make the ASICs do new stuff rather than having to buy another switch to get those extra features.
Wow, okay. Yeah. So a hard drive and a switch.
Hard drive and a switch.
Talk about hyperconverged.
Right.
We're going back the other direction now.
Yeah. So
Very cool.
I don't know if you could run file and print services or AD authentication, but I don't know that I would rule that out yet.
Oh boy. Can I host my Exchange environment on my Cat 9200?
Yeah. So. And it's an optional feature, by the way, too. Folks that deploy those, I don't know they would need a hard drive in every switch they purchase, but
right. I'm guessing could be added after the fact.
Yes.
Too, probably.
Yep, I asked that question, and it's easily removed.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. Well, Mac, thanks for joining us. I'm glad you had a good time at Cisco Live, and we really, appreciate always hearing all the information you have to impart on us. So thanks for digesting that and kind of spitting it back out in a consumable fashion.
Absolutely.
Good to chat with you.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks, everybody, for listening to yet another episode of Data Center Therapy. Check us out at datacentertherapy.com. If you've got any questions or want to chat, want topics that you want us to talk about, if you've come up with a something little tagline maybe we can use, please reach out to us, email us, find us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. Email is podcast@ivoxy.com. And you can subscribe to us, listen to us, give us a review if you like this. If you love it, tell me. If you don't, tell Mac. So 5 stars would be beautiful, but find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Overcast, and I believe we're working to get on Spotify as well, which is just kind of jumping into the podcast arena as well. So once again, thanks for listening. Have a great day, everyone.